Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and we have a very special show today. We are going to fix the NFL, so don't worry, NFL. All of your problems will be fixed. We have some sort of out-of-the-box ideas. I think this is going to be a very fun show. We're going to just come up with ideas, some meant to be taken seriously, some not meant to be taken seriously, but I think it should be very fun. Kyle, what do you think about this show, and how are you?
Well, I'm good, first of all, and then of course I think the NFL should be able to send over some royalties our way. I know that they're in a bit of a cap crunch this next season, as everyone's expecting the cap to die. But of course, they can send them some money our way for fixing everything and saving the world. So I'll be okay with that.
Yeah, except Venmo, NFL. I know you're listening, so just Venmo us, whatever. Yeah. But anyways, I think this should be very fun. Couple of housekeeping things. First things first. Just want to let you guys know that if you're watching a YouTube video, we are on pretty much every podcast distribution feed, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and many others. Search On the Sideline Podcast or my name, Jackson Kruger. Sometimes my name has to come up. And also, feel free to rate us because sometimes it's hard for people to really. It'll make it easier to find because right now we haven't had too many. So do that for us or watch on here, whatever you prefer. And also, another piece of news. Once again, I am on quite the cold streak here. Worst take again for me, saying Joe Montana is the 8th quarterback. Listen, I stand by it. I don't care. I think that people overvalue rings, but whatever. I'll take my worst take of the week yet again. Kyle, what are you going to make me suffer through this week? Last week, you made me watch probably one of the lowest moments of my sports watching career, watching that Game 7 Bruins Lightning. I was at the Tampa Bay Arena. It was obviously in Boston, but they had a watch party. I was there. The place was so ready, and then they didn't score a goal, got shut out 1-0. Brutal game. What are you going to make me suffer through this week?
Yeah, oddly enough, we didn't know each other back then, but I was actually in Tampa for Game 6, and
okay.
I think you guys scored like 6 on us. And I remember like throwing things as I was leaving Amalie Arena because I was like, oh, we're gonna lose this series now. And then we went in Game 7 and won. This one shouldn't hurt as much, but it's actually 18 minutes from Flemlo Rap's videos, a video from 2 years ago. It's the immortal demise of Josh Freeman. It's the headline is what happened to Josh Freeman, the guy who was supposed to be the Bucs legend. It looked like he had all the tools and he was going to be a good quarterback, and then fell off that Max Kellerman cliff, and that was it.
Freeman was my guy growing up. He was because he was like I sort of got into football right when it toward the end of the John Gruden days, and we Jeff Garcia I liked, but it was like it's hard to really get a connection with any of these quarterbacks. We get Freeman. I went to his first career NFL start, by the way, where he came back, converted a 4th down and 4, I believe, to score a game-winning touchdown over the Aaron Rodgers-led Green Bay Packers. We were all ready because that was their first win of the season. They went 1-7. That's actually going to do way more damage than I think you realized to me, Kyle. I was a big Josh Freeman guy back in the day.
Well, yeah, so you get 18 minutes of Josh Freeman that you're going to watch here in 2020. Didn't he have like a season where he was like an outside MVP contender?
Yeah, I believe it was like, again, I'm not sure. Everyone's turning off the podcast now with us doing Josh Freeman talk, but I believe it was like a something where his touchdown to interception ratio, he only threw like 5 interceptions one season. I'm trying to pull it up right here, and it's taking a while. He had it was a 25-6 touchdown interception ratio. That was his second season, and so it was looking like he was about to take off. He had a poor third season, and then after that, the Shiano man came, and the rest was history. Just a terrible thing. But we will try to cheer myself up now by getting into some of the ideas that we have come up with. And again, just want to reiterate, we don't really think the NFL needs to be fixed. The NFL is great, but I just thought it would be fun to do gets creative with some ideas. And so I'll start things off here. And here's my first idea. I kind of looked at these partially as like, what are problems with the NFL and how are some ways that we could potentially fix them? Some of these would never happen, but I think they're interesting. One of the problems I think that happens in the NFL is like, I always feel like with a 2-score game, sometimes it just feels like the game is never going to change, especially if it's last 2 minutes of the game and you don't have timeouts left. The onside kick is definitely it feels so fluky to me. It feels like the game's basically over when you have a 2-score lead that late. One idea was obviously the 4 from 15 that might happen, so I didn't bring that up. But what about this? Instead of going for 1 or 2, you can also elect to snap the ball at the 35-yard line, at your opponent's 35-yard line. And if you score a touchdown on that play, it counts as 4 points. So you're going for 4, which would be total of a 10-point play. It's a very difficult play to pull off. It would only really happen in these Hail Mary type situations. But it could be something where in a 10-point game with a minute left, now you still have a reason to watch because maybe they could convert this Hail Mary type play and tie the game and send it to overtime or win it if it's a 9-point game. What do you think about this idea, Kyle?
So it'd basically be like a 28-14 or a 28-17 game. You get a score, 28-24, and then you're going for the 4-pointer instead of the kickoff. That's basically what you're going for here, right?
It would have to be like a 14-24 game because you're going for 4. So you get 6 points already, and then you have to get the 4 for it. So 10 points.
So if you're down 10, I got you. Okay. Well, this sounds really convenient for the Buccaneers fan who has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Rob Gronkowski to just, let me just hurl it up there and hope for the best. No, I mean, I like it. I can dig. I mean, I am with you that coming back in the NFL is really hard. And I feel like there are some things that should change that. I do think that, we talked a little bit about the onside kick one in the previous podcast that I think they need to tweak it a little bit. But I think that would be a really good way to, allow teams to get a chance to come back in more games because, it almost seems like if there's a 10-point lead in the third or fourth quarter, it's essentially over. There are obviously instances where it doesn't happen. People can come in and talk about, their favorite comeback of all time. We get it. It does happen. But at the same time, it's very unlikely in the NFL compared to, college is a whole different ball game because the offenses are different. It's much more fast paced, all that kind of stuff. But there's constant comebacks and every game's exciting throughout. You can watch a MAC game on a Tuesday night and it's just thrilling to watch because they're just going back and forth, back and forth. The NFL sometimes, if you're watching if you're watching the Bengals and Dolphins, if the Bengals go up 20-10, there's no point in watching that game anymore unless you have Devontae Parker on a fantasy.
Also, why would you choose that as the example of the Bengals Dolphins? There was the greatest comeback of all time last season involving those two teams. Terrible example, Kyle. But yeah, no. Again, I think part of why people would be against this is because you want these comebacks to feel special in a way, and it has to feel earned. You want to make these comebacks maybe more possible, or at least make you feel like there's still a chance it could happen without making it like super easy. And I think that this would then allow it to become a lot more. Again, there's now a reason to tune in. There's a reason to watch. There still is hope, but it's still just it's a 1% chance as opposed to a 0.1% chance, which is what I like about it.
Yeah, I'd be all for it. I think it'd be interesting. I don't know how many teams would actually do it. So what happens then if it's an incomplete pass, the other team gets it at the 35-yard line?
You only get 6 points for the touchdown. It's like a 2-point conversion, but it's going for 4 instead of going for 2.
We should just continue to have increments. So you have your normal 2-point conversion, what I think is at the 5-yard line, right? And then
2-yard line.
2-yard line, thank you. Sorry. And then you move back to the 35 for the 4-point conversion. And then we can move back to the midfield for the 6-point conversion. Have an 80-yard, 10-point conversion.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I think approve of the going for 4. We're going to say yes on that.
Yeah, I approve.
Okay. And I have another one. I'm going to go twice here because I have another one that's kind of in the same vein. It's fixing the same problem, I think, but in a different way. And this is going to be every team, you get 1 per game, and it's a full drive clock stoppage. So whether this is on defense or offense, there's certain exceptions. So like, you can't, I believe I had an exception. I can't remember what it was, but basically the idea is that, I just think that a kneel down is a very boring way to end a football game. And ideally you want it to end with either a team trying to score a touchdown or a field goal. And I think that if you have this, again, let's just say the The 49ers are up on the Chiefs by 4 points. They have 2 minutes left. Now the Chiefs can use their full drive clock stoppage, which means that they don't have to worry about timeouts. Now the 49ers, they're basically just playing football. They don't want to get the ball down the field. Basically what it means is that every time it's kind of like every single play, whether it's caught in bounds or not, is the clock stops after that play. So time runs for the play, but other than that, doesn't happen. In just one per game, it wouldn't really slow the game down too much, except it would slow down the end of the game, but that's the most exciting part. What do you think about this idea?
Well, based on the Patriots' last season playoff performance, I would have loved this while Mike Vrabel was pulling the punt clock stunt, where he basically killed 2 minutes and we're just sitting there, with no answer to it. I mean, I feel like one team would lose based on this, and if a team was ahead and then they did this clock stoppage thing, and then they continue to get first downs all the way down to the 40-yard line, and then the drive stalls and the other team goes down and scores and wins. I feel like that happens one time, and then every team's pissed that a team lost that way. I don't know if that would ever be able to happen then.
I mean, well, for one thing, this is definitely one that would never happen. They would never go with this, and I do think fans would go crazy over it because it is very different. But I think the argument is that, well, you do this and you can two things. One thing is that if you do stall at the 40, well, if you got the field goal, you could have potentially scored the points that you needed or gotten a touchdown, which would have kind of iced the game because you only get one of these per game. The other flip side is that if you don't get it, you have to punt the ball back to them. They get it at the 20. Now you can use your full drive clock stoppage, which basically forces that even if they do score, you will have time left to score again, which is now creating a much more exciting back and forth throughout this. And on top of it, if you get the ball back, you could just kneel it down. So I think it could make the end of the game more exciting, although it also is now. We're straying away from what is traditional football.
I would do this. I would adjust your ruling here just a little bit. So let's say a team, like we said, is down 24-14 and then gets the touchdown, fails on their 4-point conversion, obviously, because they're going for the 4-point conversion. They kick off, and then they use their clock stoppage. I would say the only ruling I would change to this is you can only use the clock stoppage drive after a scoring drive. Because the worst thing that would happen is a team gets stopped on third down with a minute and a half left and one timeout, and then they punt it to try and flip the field position and get to use the clock stoppage because the other team's at the 2-yard line. I would do it that you can only use it on after a scoring drive. Then you can use the clock stoppage rule on the next team's ensuing drive.
Okay, that's it. Or here, let's workshop this even more. How about what if you try to do the clock stoppage? If you go for 2, and if you have to go for 2 now to earn the clock stoppage, and if you don't, it's a 15-yard penalty.
Sure. I mean, okay. Because the thing is I want to incentivize teams that are playing. If a team gets a really good defensive stop, key defensive stop, and then all of a sudden they got to deal with this whole thing, I feel like then we're just making it hard to win football games rather than, it's easier to lose than it is hard to win a football game, Yeah. I would
Fair enough. So we'll say I'm 1 for 2 now. I guess we're not passing the full drive clock stoppage. If anything else you had to add to that?
No, I think that was good. That was fun. That was that'd be an interesting thing to my biggest question would be how Andy Reid would mess this up.
Yeah,
that's the first. Exactly. Andy Reid messes it up in the first game, and then the Chiefs are all mad.
Unrelated thing, this is going back a couple years now, but in the AFC Championship game against your New England Patriots, when he didn't call timeout in overtime to give his players a rest, I just loved how even somehow in overtime in the playoffs, he still found a way to screw up time management, which is just one of my favorite things about Andy Reid. But anyways, I went twice, so you'll go now. What is one of your ideas to how to fix the NFL?
Okay, so this is a little weird because this one's a little more serious tone than the first 2 you had. But this is actually something that I feel like could actually work, and I actually feel pretty strongly that should happen. And I vote in some sort of fashion. So we've talked about the running back position, its loss of values over the year. And it's pretty much turned into, especially the new situation is Dalvin Cook wanting a new contract. That it seems like almost that running backs peak value is years 3 to 7, and then immediately after year 7, they're essentially falling off a cliff, and that's pretty much the end of their career. So I would propose something along the lines. The initial proposal, which could be then negotiated or worked down, is running back should be exempt from rookie salary contracts restrictions. So back in the day, there was Jamarcus Russell was obviously the most popular one that changed a lot of it because he got like $72 million guaranteed or something like that. That then a lot of the teams decided to go towards the NBA method where they're restricting salaries for rookies because the draft is kind of a crapshoot, so you don't necessarily know. I would make running backs exempt from that rule, that they're able to negotiate their salary as soon as they get drafted because they're entering at their peak value. So, another guy could come in and be like, well, that's not fair that he gets to negotiate his contract. But the odds are that the first round left tackle is going to get a big contract in year 5 when the running back has to fight for every dollar that he's getting in year 5. So I would say, they're exempt and they get to negotiate their own contracts as a rookie.
So, okay, well, let's play this out then. So let's just say, the Ravens signed, they drafted J.K. Dobbins. Let's say Dobbins now, they say, hey, we'll pay you $6 million for this year, for 3 years, I guess, $6 million a year for 3 years. So now what happens if Dobbins says, no, I don't want to play to that? Is he now just a free agent?
Well, so basically how it was, before they did the rookie contract scale is these guys would hold out, into June almost for their training camp. I mean, that doesn't really matter now because there's no training camps this early, given the pandemic and everything. But yeah, they would hold out for as long as possible to get the best deal. But I can't remember, but I believe it was basically the team owned the rights until you signed the contract. And something had to be worked out where either you were traded or you signed the contract, which turned into usually they sign a contract. But I mean, yeah, if
what about drafting this? I was gonna say, but I have a counter for this. What about if it's kind of similar to like the restricted free agent model, where it's like if that player doesn't, if someone else offers the contract, like let's just say Dobbins says, I don't want $6 million, I want $8 million a year. The Ravens say no. Now the Raiders offer him that money. Now I think the Ravens sort of it's like they get the opportunity to match it. And if they decide not to, then the Ravens have to give, maybe we'll say, the same draft pick that they used on them back. So the Raiders would have to give the Ravens a second round pick back. Does that make sense?
Oh, actually, that would be interesting. Because my other thing that a way you could adjust it to is you could change the rookie salary for running backs to where their rookie contract's only a 2-year deal instead of a 5-year deal. That was the other thing I was kind of thinking. So that way they're kind of entering their prime, which is much shorter than another position player's prime, and they're getting it earlier, and then they're able to get their maximum value contract. But that is interesting too. So essentially, you just give the draft pick back.
Yeah,
I like that too. I'd be okay with either one.
Yeah, no, I think the one that probably is more realistic and makes more sense would be the let's just shorten the 2 years and maybe you can franchise tag once and then that's all you get, as opposed to you don't want a Le'Veon Bell who's basically stuck there for if a first round pick, they could be stuck there for 6 years and never have a long-term deal, and that's pretty much their career. So yeah, I think that's good. Definitely something that needs to be done. And from that, I will go on now. I will we'll move on. I think we'll pass that one through. I accept that as I don't know why I feel like I need to, but I will. And then moving on. Okay, so one of I think the biggest problems in football still is the overtime rules. I think that the overtime rules, it's better than it was, but I still think there's some real problems. A lot of people talked about, maybe you could just have a team, you have to score a touchdown, but I think there is still, or if you score a touchdown, the other team still gets the ball first. But I still think there's problems with that. If Patrick Mahomes 2 years ago did get the ball, score a touchdown, well, now the Patriots get the ball right back, and they could just need a field goal to win. It's basically old overtime rules. So it's still not perfect. I have a better plan. Instead of worrying about the overtime rules itself, I think the fairness thing to me is more about I don't like how a coin toss is a big part of overtime. It's some of these huge games are getting significantly swung. I think it's about a 10-point swing. You have like a 55% chance. In the regular season, it's like you have a 45% chance to win if you don't win the coin toss, and about a 50% chance to win if you do win it, and then there's like a 5% chance of tie. So my thought is, let's get rid of the coin toss. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to have a field goal off. And here's how the field goal off works. So you have two teams. We'll go with the Patriots and the Chiefs. Both head coaches write down a number, and we'll say that the home team has to write down an even number. The away team has to write down an odd number. And so then let's say the home team writes down 60, the away team writes down 61. The Patriots write down 61. That now means that their kicker has to try a free kick from 61 yards out. If he makes it, then they get the ball first, or they get the choice of what they want to do. If he misses it, then the Chiefs would get the choice of what they want to do. This way, it's taking the luck factor out of the game. Or to some degree.
I thought you were saying like horse style competition where it's kind of, do or die. You each take a turn kicking a field goal. But I think both are interesting. So the question is, does the other team get the pass to rush the kicker, or is it just a free kick?
No, free kick.
Okay. This is something I'd be interested in. I'd be okay with. So I had an overtime tweak as well.
Okay.
Do you want me to say mine too?
Let's do this one first, and then let's get into yours.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, I'd be okay with that. I think I almost would want to just see a kickoff where they're each taking turns from like 50 yards and just going back and forth. And the first one to make it and the other misses it is how it's decided.
That's just how who wins, or that's just who gets the ball? Okay.
That's who gets the ball first. Yeah. So it's
who gets the ball first? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So they each take a turn from 50 yards, and the first one, when there's a make and a miss in a round, then whoever makes it gets the ball first.
Yeah, I get that. The reason why I decided to do it the way I had it was because I just feel like I think you'd want it to sort of end quickly. I don't think you wouldn't want them to make 8 in a row, and now it's all you're having like 20 minutes of field goal. I mean, it would also still be exciting, but I just feel like I
would be going crazy if Stephen Gostkowski was taking like 8 50-yard field goals in a row.
Yeah. I also think it'd be fun just with the free kick because these kickers can make them from a lot farther when there's not people rushing the passers or rushing the kickers. So I think that can add some intrigue as well. So what do you say? Yes or no for that one?
So one quick thing, real quick. I was thinking about this. So how does this add to the value and MVP odds for Justin Tucker? If then in every overtime, John Harbaugh might be able to just write 70 down, and he gets a free kick from 70 yards and is able to just drill it every time with no rush. How much value does that add to Justin Tucker?
Well, I mean, I would think probably not many because overtime doesn't happen too often, but it adds some value for sure. And also Justin Tucker, I mean, I made a whole video on how kickers are undervalued. Justin Tucker should be making way more money statistically. And also, I know maybe controversial statement next to a Patriots fan, but I think he's definitely in the GOAT conversation. He might be the GOAT. I mean, no one's been as good as him technically, but again, I could go all day about Justin Tucker. Let's move on. And
I'm for this idea. I mean, I agree with you on that point, but that's another podcast.
Right. Yeah. Our Justin Tucker podcast coming out next week. Go ahead. What is your overtime tweak that you have?
All right. So I had 2 ideas for an overtime tweak. The first was the obvious one, which people keep talking about, is the college football rule for overtime, that each team gets an opportunity to get the ball. My tweak for it is instead of 25 yards, they start at midfield. So each team starts at midfield and takes turns. And it's the same thing. After you score, although I think in college it's if you score twice and every team has to go for it on 2-point conversion. I would do it. Each team automatically also has to go for a 2-point conversion. There's no extra points. So you start from midfield. You can go down and kick a field goal or score a touchdown. And if you score the touchdown, you have to go for 2 immediately on the first run.
Can I tweak your tweak? I think let's go one step further and let's also get rid of field goals. I think if you get rid of field goals, and I've seen this a little bit before. I think I'm fine with the 25-yard line, but I think if you get rid of field goals, that would also take away sort of the huge advantage of being able to go second in overtime, where now if the other team doesn't score, you can just kick a field goal and win it. What if we do that as well?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. And then, of course, I don't know the rule for college. I do a lot of high school football reporting, so I know you can't return defensive touchdowns in overtime. Is that the rule for college, or are defensive touchdowns allowed?
Yeah, no, that's the rule for college as well.
Okay, I'm putting defensive touchdowns on the table too. If you get a 99-yard interception return, I'm all for you winning off of that.
Again, I'm trying to just think about it logistically here. I believe that would then create a pretty big advantage for the team going second, right? Because then you could just win immediately. Whereas if you're going first, well, I guess you would win immediately either. I don't really know. Sure, whatever. I haven't
but
thought
at the
about
same
it.
time, it's also harder for the second team because you could get the interception and then get the ball back, but it's not like you can just trot your field goal team out and kick a field goal because now our rule says you have to score a touchdown. So it's still hard for either team, but it also sets up a point where there's not 18 overtimes like that LSU and Texas A&M game, because that's what the NFL wants to avoid, is like a 7-hour football game that's going into their Sunday Night Football broadcast.
Yeah, no, I like that. Here's maybe my one concern about it is we're now getting rid of ties, and ties are one of my favorite things in football because of how stupid they are. And are we losing something by losing one of the stupidest things in the sport?
Well, my goal for overtime was A, to keep it consistent between regular season and playoffs, and then B, get rid of ties. So I guess we're on a discrepancy here, because my second idea was then just a 15-minute running clock, and essentially during the running, except obviously after a possession change or a touchdown, then the clock stops, because obviously switching out personnel and all that. But yeah, my one other change would be a 15-minute running clock to where it doesn't matter who scores first. You just keep playing until the end of the 15 minutes.
Here's my my concern about that, I would say, is that what happens if it's still tied after that? And we'll say playoffs. You could say maybe that's overtime. If it's in the regular season, it can be a tie. But in the playoffs, do you then just do a second 15-minute period? What if these guys now end up playing like 2 games in a row? I don't think they're going to want to do that. Well, that
happens. That's the overtime rules for the playoffs, anyways. The overtime rules it's continuously 15-minute playoffs until a team wins.
I mean, sure, but it's a lot more. The chance, like double overtime, is a lot more rare than it would be if teams just have to stay tied, because all you need to do is score once, not on the opening drive, or unless you kick 2 field goals on the first 2 drives, and then the game's over. Whereas this, it could be, it could end up being 14-14 in terms of what the overtime scoring was, and now it's going to last longer. It's more likely for games to go on longer than it would be with the current rules.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, we'll go back to the other idea then. We'll go with the 25-yard line, no kicks at all, defensive touchdowns on the table.
I don't know. I think I like my idea better. I'm going to stick with my idea. Well, let us know who had the worst take of the week with that one. Which overtime rules did you like better? And I'll move on. We'll get off overtime now. This is something that I don't know how popular of an opinion this is going to be. I hate instant replay. I just don't like instant replay. I don't think it does any value. I think it's the dumbest. It's one of the dumbest things in sports. And here's my pitch: is that we get rid of instant replay altogether. You add 2 sky judges. I don't mind a sky judge, because I think the sky judge, they can make the decision quickly. They can let people know on the field. They can watch it on TV. You have, and I think 2 of them, just because if they're getting rid of instant replay, get a second person up there in a booth. 2 sky judges. No, other than that, no instant replay. And you know what? If there's a missed call, there's already a ton of missed calls. We can only challenge half the things anyways. So why are we freaking out about some of these so minuscule things? I want to watch football. I think it loses some of the excitement when you see a touchdown, but you always have to think, well, did he get it in? I don't know. You're always waiting. When you can see the signal touchdown, you don't have to worry about it. I think this is the sport that I want to watch, and for some reason, no one agrees with me. Do you agree with me, Kyle?
This was another one of my points too. We keep, great minds think alike here. I had, my ruling was restrict challenges and video reviews to 2 minutes tops. So a team calls a challenge, you get 2 minutes. The referee gets 2 minutes under the hood to figure out if it's conclusive evidence, because if it takes longer than minutes to find out something, it's not conclusive. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you get 1 minute to view that, and then 1 minute to get time and clock, or time and spot of the ball. Mm-hmm. I had a 2 minute review, and then you obviously said abolish all of it. So this is another one that we're kind of battling on, but we both want to tweak it because it is annoying. This should never be a 10-minute process.
Right.
Judging a fumble to see if a knee and a ball going down like perfectly at the same time. This shouldn't take 10 minutes to figure out.
Yeah.
2 minutes tops, running clock, 2 minutes to figure it out and get out of there and get the game going again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would prefer that than the system now. I still feel like, I think it was Ryan Russillo who said it best, where he's like, there's like people say, well, what's wrong with just getting the calls right? It's like they don't get the calls right anyways. I mean, there's already so many missed calls, and replay has to do with a ton of them. Everyone talks about the Fail Mary. The Fail Mary was reviewed, and it wasn't the replacement refs who reviewed it. They still said it was a touchdown. The Des Bryant catch was not, if I remember correctly, it wasn't ruled a catch on the field, but it was overturned in the replay booth. The replay booth does just as much damage as the referees on the field do. Let's just keep it one way, keep it quicker, and also it's more entertaining, I think. Like, I think you do lose something when you're waiting for the replay to celebrate.
Yeah, I just think it's too much. Something needs to change with it because it is taking too long. It takes away from the game, the motivation, the momentum, the excitement. I would almost just start throwing challenge flags to disrupt the team's rhythm. I don't even care about the timeout sometimes. It's like if a team's just rolling on you, I'd throw a challenge flag and slow the game down, because it takes so long to figure this stuff out.
Right. Yeah. You get way more time that way than if you just burn the timeout on it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think we're on the same page. I think the fans might not be as much on the same page, but that's fine. I also have another one that I have to imagine every football fan is going to be on the same page about. It's in the same idea. What about a limit on how much a company can replay the exact same commercial? At a certain point, you have to reshoot and put a different commercial on because it drives you crazy with, the champ is here commercials happening nonstop. You have to reshoot the commercial in some way. You can't just replay the same thing for a certain amount. You can only get a limit.
Yeah, I would be okay with that. I would also ban Flow on Sundays, Flow from Progressive.
Mm-hmm.
I find
or just in general.
Yeah.
just banner period. Yeah.
Well, I don't watch cable any day except for Sunday, so it doesn't bother me any other time.
Okay.
But yeah,
I see.
Sunday for football, Flow is officially banned. But yeah, I would say that you restrict the amount of commercials that you're selling for one person. That you get. I would even say 1 a quarter is like the max. I mean, I'm willing to give you that.
And I don't mind. I mean, if Budweiser wants to, have a ton of commercials, I don't mind. I just think they have to do different commercials. It can't be the same one over. Yeah, shoot a different one. If I have to suffer through this, at least make it somewhat entertaining. Let's spend another 30 minutes on that. No, we can go ahead and move on. Okay, I'll do one more here. This one is, I had some funny ones. This one is a serious one. I think, tanking has started to become more and more of a thing in football. I think it's, people don't like to see tanking, that, they don't like Andy Dalton getting taken out, even though he is clearly the better player. The Bengals wanted the first overall pick. Obviously, I think that I don't like a lottery situation. I just think that I don't like the luck factor in. So here's my perfectly serious and normal idea. The worst team in football every year for the next season has to employ John Fox in some manner.
John Fox or Jeff Fisher? Or do they trade off?
Maybe we could maybe bottom two would then have to do that. And here's the employment as well. The employment is that John Fox, he has to be the game manager part of the head coaching role. So he doesn't have to be the head coach, but he has to be the one who calls timeouts. He has to be the one who throws challenge flags. Teams are not going to want to lose their next season of having Jeff Fisher be the one in charge of clock management if they have to if they get the last overall pick. Andy Dalton would have played all 16 games last year.
Yeah, no doubt. That's really funny, actually. I would love to see Jeff Fisher just roaming the worst team sidelines all over again. It's interesting. Are you anti-tanking? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not really anti-tanking. I just think this is a funny idea.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of for tanking. I don't think that the Dolphins have any reason to say, oh, we're going to win that last season. They did better than people expected. But, even then, it's I don't know. I like tanking, but I am all for anytime we can get Jeff Fisher trying to manage anything. We should also put Hugh Jackson into this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Or what if Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens are a package deal?
I think the problem is that there's a real chance the Browns will end up soon getting back to the worst team in football, and I just don't want to have to make them suffer through that again. No, yeah. I think that this is yeah. I don't really hate tanking, by the way. I mean, there is parts of it that are annoying. At the same time, I mean, the reason that we got Jameis Winston back in the day was because we pulled our starters at the end of the first half, got Jameis Winston. I mean, there is logic to tanking. I don't really mind tanking if it's like 1 game or 2 games. I think the full season tanking can get kind of annoying, but listen, it's a good strategy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, do what's best for your team. I'm not going to get mad at you for it. But anyways, so definitely putting that one through. I fully expect that one to come through. I think we'll be seeing John Fox, in 2021 for sure. But move on. Let's have another one of your ideas here. What do you got?
I like how we just named every bad coach in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, you remember those easier. I mean, the good coaches, you might forget 1 or 2. The bad ones you got.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. So this was kind of a 2-parter too. My first part of this was that Gus Johnson needs to come back to the NFL. Gus Johnson is still my all-time favorite play-by-play guy. The way he can just scream into a microphone, it gets me so excited. No matter, it could be a meaningless NFC East game that nobody except for Troy Aikman's watching, and Gus Johnson makes it as exciting as possible. He's the best play-by-play guy in the world, and he's for some reason no longer on NFL, which is just a shame. The best situation for Gus Johnson to come back, though, of course, would be ESPN splashing the cash. Gus Johnson, Peyton Manning in the booth Monday nights.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, I mean, sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I like it. I still, there's a part of me that wants to see Peyton Manning get into a booth finally and have him just be like terrible, to just like all this hype and just have it be a disaster, just for the humor of it. I mean, how about this though? You got me thinking. What if, I always love the radio announcers because they actually care about the team, and I feel like they actually watch the games of the team that are, as a Bucks fan, I can't tell you how many times I've been watching a game and the announcers are just like, they don't know what they're talking about with my team because they don't watch the Bucks, because why would you? But so I'm thinking, what about if there was some sort of way where you could sync up, maybe if you could do it like online or something, you could sync up, the NFL creates a program where you can sync up the radio announcers, so that way you can hear what they're saying instead of just the regular boring cable announcers.
That would be interesting. I feel like that'd be a Sunday ticket only thing, because like CBS would instantly get pissed, because they're dropping, millions of dollars on Vern Lundquist to call a game, and nobody's tuning into Vern Lundquist. So it'd be interesting to see. I would be okay with the radio guys just because, like you said, they are in touch with the teams. They're there all the time, and they are exciting. They're paid to use their voices, and I think that'd be a really good thing. Overall, though, I just think TV guys, the play-by-play guys, I think add so much to the NFL when they're good. I don't really see how Peyton Manning could be bad. He's charismatic. Yeah, I think the one person that they've been talking about, I think Brady would be terrible on TV. Brady would be so good.
I think he'd be okay. I actually think he'd be okay. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Brady's sort of underrated. I think he's actually a funnier guy than people give him credit for. I think he'd do all right.
Yeah, I don't know. He's still so vanilla to me sometimes. I feel like Brady and Breeze would be like the 2 no's, and I feel like Rivers and Manning would be my 2 home run candidates.
Okay,
that are in the league right now.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's hard to really I mean, it's so hard to really do that job well. I think too, a play-by-play or commentator. It's a really, people like to make fun of these bad ones, but I mean, that's a tough job. That's I know, just trying to talk for an hour here with how much I stumble over things. Now trying to keep track of 80 million things going at once. That's tough.
By the way, sorry, one more thing with Gus Johnson and Peyton Manning, Booger McFarland keeps his stool on the sideline and he's just sitting there watching the game.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's what we need. Anyways, moving on. I'll do one now. Okay, this one is called I'm calling it Shooting the Moon. And what you do with the Shoot the Moon is, we all know it, when there's a great team going up against a bad team, no one even tunes in. If it's a Thursday night game, you just check the score afterwards. No one cares. So here's my plan for how to make those games interesting. If the Patriots are playing, or we'll use let's say the Chiefs are going to be playing the what's a bad thing? The Panthers. Okay, Chiefs Panthers playing each other. We all know the Chiefs are going to win, but if they don't make a single completion for the entire game, they don't complete a single completion, then and they still win. They get a win, and it counts as 2 wins essentially. So you get 2 wins, which would be a half game up now. If you can shoot the moon, you can't complete a single completion if you get the win. Makes these potential blowouts a lot more interesting.
That would be really funny if a team pulled that off. I'd be really impressed. So could you make passing plays and just throw purposeful incomplete passes to throw the team off, thinking you're not going for it?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Make it so. Yeah, start off with a play action, and just tell Mahomes, hey, make sure you overthrow it here. Don't get anywhere close. Then I think that's good.
Who do you think would be the first person to actually go for this? It'd be Belichick, right?
Belichick, yeah, 100%. I mean, Belichick's almost done it 5 times already. I think that he would probably accidentally do it just by running the ball so much on playing the Bills or something, and then
he'd bring back Jacoby Brissett and just go full on Veer on everybody, the Veer offense on everybody, and it's just Sony Michel on his 39th carry. But, he's got no left knee, but he's still going.
Right. So they can get that extra win against the...
to be fair, that would put the Patriots in a position where they need to win essentially 6 games.
Let's see how would it work. So if it was, I guess 6 games would kind of, I'm trying to figure this out. The math is very difficult on it as well, which makes it, and maybe you can only do it once per season or something like that. So that way there's not the Patriots aren't at the end of the season 22-10 or whatever the math is. Make things a little bit simpler.
They're 32-0. The defense just shuts everyone down.
Yeah, exactly. So this resounding yes, correct?
Of course, yeah. This can't miss opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. One more. I'm gonna go with this. Is actually just a boring, simple one, but it's one it drives me crazy. The idea that if you fumble the ball out of bounds at the 1 yard line, the other team, or you still keep the ball and you're at the 1 yard line. If you fumble it out of bounds in the end zone, not only do they get the ball, but they don't get it all the way at the 20 yard line. I don't care which one it is. I want it to be simple. Either you fumble it out of bounds, the other team gets the ball, or you fumble it out of bounds, you get the ball. And if it's in the end zone, you just get it where you fumbled it. I think this is a very simple thing that somehow the NFL has made confusing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. The whole touchback rule just makes no sense because it makes it easier. You're essentially making it easier to play defense. But at the same time, I don't know. I guess I'm for it. Yeah, I'd be all for that. So if you fumble the ball at the 3 yard lines and it bounces to the back of the end zone, you essentially get the ball back at the 3 yard line.
Yeah.
But my favorite one is when the guy celebrates too early and drops the ball at the 1 yard line when he has a breakaway touchdown, and then it just rolls out of bounds in the end zone, and he ends up getting a complete touchback because he messed up on carrying the ball into the end zone. Those are always my favorite plays to see.
The Deshaun Jackson special, I believe, is what we call that one. But don't they usually just end up on the 1 yard line, then someone picks it up anyways? I feel it usually doesn't bounce to the back of the end zone.
Yeah, for the most part they do. I think there's been a few that have bounced out. I think it was, it was a Texans game. I remember watching it. I think it was Jabbar Gaffney early in his career when he was on the Texans. He tried to throw the ball against the wall because he was excited, but he threw it at the 1 yard line instead of in the end zone against the wall behind the end zone. So it was a touchback because he threw it way too early against the wall.
Yeah, no, those are great. All of the celebrating too early will always be great. Not really sure how we got onto that, but I think the getting rid of the fumble, I think this is the good one. And again, some people say, well, it helps the defense. Well, it would help the defense more if it was just, the other team gets the ball across the board then. I don't care which one it is. I really don't. I just wish there was some consistency because I find it weird how it's sort of an arbitrary line now all of a sudden can be such a huge swing. I mean, it's you have a great chance of getting a touchdown to them just getting the ball. It just seems luck-based.
If the defense gets the fumble at the 3 yard line and recovers it in the end zone, is it a touchback or do they get it at the 3 yard line?
Well, then it would be a touchback. Yeah, it only counts for out of bounds plays.
Yeah, I'm actually for this. In all seriousness, I think this is actually a good idea because the rule doesn't really make sense. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah, I agree. How many more ideas do you have left?
I actually have one idea left. How many do you have left?
Okay, I have 3. So here, I'll do one more. We'll have you do one, and then I'll do my last 2.
Okay.
Because I have another. I'll do another sort of shorter one. This is going to be so point different. The tiebreakers are very convoluted sometimes. I think that there's all this crazy stuff. You have to really look into it to figure out what the tiebreaker means and who can get the best tiebreaker. What if we just simplify this? I actually got this idea from an SB Nation video, the now discontinued Offsides, which was very fun while it lasted. But their idea was that instead of having it be strength of schedule and all that stuff, just tiebreaker, just point differential. That's the whole tiebreaker. If Tampa Bay and New Orleans are both 10-6 at the end of the season, whoever had the best point differential, and I guess you could do if it's 2 teams like in the division, you could do point differential against them if they split the series. But then, like other than that, it would be just point differential across the board if they didn't play each other, or their point differential was tied against each other.
Yeah, I mean, this is what soccer has used this for years as their biggest tiebreaker. The only weird one is like in the World Cup when it's only like a 3-game sample size that the tiebreakers can get really weird, like it kicked Cameroon out of the World Cup. Anyways, going off on a tangent here, but I do think this actually makes sense. Point differential is usually a better indicator than even record for how good a team is. So I feel like this makes sense that the ultimate tiebreaker is just who won by the most points in the most games. So I'm for that. That's an easy one. That's an easy fix to me because the tiebreakers don't really make any sense anyways.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess like the strength of schedule, like it does make some sense to some degree, but they also don't just do like straight up strength of schedule. It's like you have to have a certain amount of same team. Just make it simple. NFL, what are you doing? We'll go ahead and move on. What's your last foolproof idea?
So this was kind of based off of what Adam Silver was talking about for NBA All-Star Weekend. I want to change the Pro Bowl here.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know. So here's what I want to do. I want to do week 12 is Pro Bowl week. So instead of the end of the year, because the problem is that first of all, the Pro Bowl doesn't work because the teams in the Super Bowl, which are usually the 2 best teams with the most Pro Bowlers, don't play in the Pro Bowl because they have the Super Bowl to worry about. And the second thing is all the other good players are prepping for surgery in the offseason, so they don't want to play in the Pro Bowl either, but they feel obligated to do it, so they half-ass it. My thing is, so you add an extra week to the season. So they're already doing the 17-game season, I think, starting next year. So my proposal would be 19-week season. Week 12 is a universal bye week for all teams. And you can do this by simply cutting the preseason games to 2 games. Then your schedule's still the same. Your calendar's still the same, I mean. So you cut it down. Week 12 is a universal bye week for Pro Bowl week. Pro Bowl week is Saturday and Sunday of football for the All-Star weekend. Each team, a 32-team 7-on-7 flag football tournament. Each team selects 9 players and a quarterback to come represent their team at the Pro Bowl for the 32-team tournament. So why 9 players? So basically, players have to play both sides of the ball. You can either, they'd be interesting to see the Chiefs could essentially bring all their receivers in, but then those guys also have to play defense. So each team gets to select 9 players. A couple players have to play both ways and a quarterback. So 10 players total for a 32-team tournament for the Pro Bowl week. The winning team, each player on the team gets $500,000, and the winning team gets the 33rd pick in the NFL draft.
Okay. No. Yes, I like this. For a second, I wasn't sure where this was going with all of the with some of the idea of like the in the middle of the season. But I think with the flag football idea, it could now create you're not getting contact, which I think is necessary. Couple tweaks. One is I think that you should have to have an offensive and defensive lineman out there for the entire game. I think that just should be. You have to have big guys out there too. You can't just do that. So I think that should be a critique I'd have right there. I like the idea of the draft pick, and especially in the middle of the season, chances are you're going to still care about that team. Whereas if it was at the end of the season, you might be already a free agent and not care. I like this idea. I think this is a good one.
Yeah, I'm good with the offensive or defensive lineman on there because they can essentially snap the ball, and then they could also run up for passes. And how great would it be that some offensive lineman's just torching everybody for a big time game.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got 3 touchdowns because everyone's just losing him there. But yeah, I think this is a great idea. And then the flag football.
It was your idea.
Yes, I'm giving myself credit.
Okay.
So yeah, I think this is my $1 million idea. So yeah, the flag football obviously is the incentive, because the last thing you want is to send your players out there and then they get cut out at the knee, and then that's the end of it. So obviously the flag football creates a safer environment, and then yeah, I'm just all for this. I think this would be so much fun to watch. I would tune in for both days of this. If it's a 32 team tournament, and then how great would it be if a team that's like, a team that's like 1-10 heading into All-Star Week, Pro Bowl week, isn't all of a sudden in the Final Four of the 32 team tournament and getting a second draft pick. They could have the number 1, 33, and 34 picks in the NFL draft next season. Yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
No, it'd be good. It'd also be kind of fun to see a team like, some of these like top heavy teams, like it's like Arizona now. I think Kyler Murray might be the quarterback who is staying out there for both sides, offense. And so if I understand correctly, you said 9 players each. So does this mean that there's like basically 7 players and 2 alternates and you can swap out to some degree? Or does this mean that you have to pick 7 players? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I can see a couple quarterbacks end up still finding a way to play defense. It seems fun. I think like 3 things. I think one thing is you probably would have to do some sort of like no practice during this period of time, like make practice not allowed. So that way coaches would actually want their players out there, it's a way to get practice. I think the other thing I was thinking of was that you should still probably just create a quote unquote Pro Bowl team where, you have like the same process of Pro Bowls. Cause now with this system, the Pro Bowl is a little bit different. And actually, now that I think about it, you could just do both. I mean, you could just do this and also do a Pro Bowl as well.
What's the point of having a Pro Bowl team and an All-Pro team? You could have the players vote in their own team's Pro Bowl team, and then just have an All-Pro team at the end of the year.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah,
have like 77 Pro Bowlers because everybody makes the Pro Bowl because everyone's either hurt or playing in the Super Bowl. So we already have like too many Pro Bowlers as it is. You could essentially just have. Now the great thing, the way they would have to figure it out, like especially if they did a fan voted Pro Bowl, is like the Steelers fans going in and trying to get the Ravens backup quarterback into the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
hearing the votes to that.
Although, hey, Robert, now their backup quarterback's Robert Griffin III. Maybe that'd be fun. Maybe that would be. I would kind of want to see him there.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. No. Yeah. This is good. This is the best idea either one of us have had all season. I think this is the one.
These are the gems that people who stick around for 52 minutes into the podcast get.
Exactly. Everyone who leaves at the 51-minute mark, you're missing out. Okay. So I have a couple more. We'll finish it off here. One of them is, I think, no automatic first down penalties. You get the yardage. If it's 4th down and 30 and you get a 15-yard penalty, now it's 4th down and 15. Like, I think the automatic first down, just get rid of them. You still get the yardage. If the yardage isn't a first down, I mean, that's the whole point of football, is for the yardage to be the first down. Get rid of automatic first down penalties. The only exception can be, or actually, I think even inside the 10, even if it's like 3rd and goal and there's a penalty, you just get the yardage. Or maybe, I mean, that's the one exception perhaps. But other than that, no automatic first down penalties.
Yeah, I'm for that. So essentially, if it's a 3rd and goal and it's a penalty in the end zone, you get the ball at the 1-yard line. Pass interference, I mean.
Yeah.
3rd and goal at the 1. Now, of course, the elite Joe Flacco would be the ultimate weapon for this. So if you have like a 4th down and 30, you just trot old Joe out there, the pass interference maestro, and he just forces the team into a pass interference.
Well, but this would hurt him because this isn't helping the pass interference. I mean, pass interference ends up the same. It's the same rule, except if it was pass interference not past the first down marker, then you don't get the first down.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, that's a good point. I just imagine. Anytime we can make fun of Joe Flacco, it's perfect. But yeah, I'm actually for this. I think it makes sense because, that's such a cheap way. But at the same time, then, if you get burned on a play, a cornerback's just going to hold the guy, Because what's the point of giving up the big play if you can just hold them, and then instead of 4th and 20, it's 4th and 15, and you get just to keep doing it until you stop them.
That's a good point. Yeah, the holding thing might be the one. Except maybe holding could still be or maybe you could just do if you see someone intentionally doing something like that, then you can still give them the yardage. You throw that, but I don't trust the refs. So maybe we'll have to keep. That's a good point. Holding will have to probably still be the automatic first down then. And also, if you want to make an automatic first down in the goal when it's in the end zone too, I'm okay with that as well. But other than that, I think that at least cut down on the automatic first down penalties. I don't get the whole point of why we just, the whole point of football is to get those yardage. I don't get why we're also adding this weird, a penalty helps you get a first down as well. One other one, this one has come up because of the Dalvin Cook and also the Jamal Adams situation that's happened recently. You had a suggestion about the Dalvin Cook thing. I have kind of another counter. What about this? Instead of just running backs being able to negotiate their own contracts, every rookie can, but the rookie salaries don't count against the salary cap. So you're still getting that advantage of the reason that this is effective is because you still get that advantage of having a rookie player, because that's part you want to, give sort of, it gives you an advantage to have a rookie player. I think that helps because they're younger. You don't have to pay them as much. But now it's like, okay, you can pay Joe Burrow a decent amount of money because he's going to sell you a lot of tickets. And at the same time, once he then becomes, after that rookie deal, now you can give him a bigger contract or not. But I just think this is a better way. And I was also going to say it's like you can only go for, the idea I had in my head was that it's like you negotiate the salary for that one season. So it's like Jamal Adams, he says, hey, I want $17 million this year. The Jets say, well, sure, if it's not against the cap, or we'll do that because, you're worth it for the company, just not really for the salary cap, in their opinion. I think this could be a good way to allow some of these, especially these rookie running backs, to get paid and also still keep the competitive advantage. And maybe you have to move the salary cap down a little bit to make this work, but I still think it could be a good idea.
So the NFLPA would be up in a tizzy about this, I feel like, because I feel like every 7-year veteran is essentially, every average 7-year veteran is essentially out of the league at that point. Because then if you're going to decide between having to pay for a 7-year veteran who's against the cap, who's like an average player, compared to a rookie who might be okay, but you don't know right away, you're going to take the rookie who doesn't count against the salary cap and just try and stack as many of the top end guys as you can. I feel like that's the one issue with it. The one, I guess I would offer a tweak to yours. So basically, Major League Soccer salary cap is the worst structure in the entire world. There's way too many rules to it. But they have one rule that I actually think is a pretty good idea. It's called the designated player rule. At the MLS, you get 3 players, essentially, that are you would list as designated players, and their salaries don't count against your cap.
Yeah, I hate that. I think that's terrible.
I think that's a great. Why?
Well, yeah, because your team is one of the biggest, has the most amount of money out of, or has a ton of money and can afford that kind of thing. What about now Nashville? All the stuff, like, that's great. The Patriots will then pay Patrick Mahomes $100 million, or the Cowboys will, and now the Patrick Mahomes plays for the Cowboys. Like, the whole point of a salary cap is that you can't pay the star players to leave their teams, and it's more of an uneven battle.
Well, what if you exempt quarterbacks from designated players?
Well, but then they'll just pay, I don't know who's Aaron Donald to come to, they'll pay whatever the best is. I don't like that. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm a Tampa Bay Rays fan. So the idea of, circumventing caps in general.
I don't think the NFL owner structure is quite the same as like the NBA or not the NBA, sorry, as like the MLS or MLB structure. I feel like a lot of the NFL, all the NFL guys are the richest of the rich. They're all super billionaires. So I don't think it would affect the NFL as much as another league like the MLB, where someone's going to shortchange everybody because they all have money. They all have the same amount of money, basically.
I mean, no, you're not wrong there. I mean, like, you look at the difference between, certain guys in baseball compared to this. But what about like a Dean Spanos who's going to say, I don't want to, I don't want to pay for Aaron. He might say like if Aaron Donald is now going for $70 million a year or whatever, because, or $50 million a year, he might say, I don't feel like paying that. and now maybe you're getting people who are just more reckless with their money now. Who are just more okay with doing that. I mean, the Panthers owner, who he can just go out and hire a new coach for a ridiculously large contract just because he can. He's now going to go out and pay Aaron Donald $50 million a year or $70 million a year or whatever he feels like paying him just to get him on his team.
Yeah, but it'd still be interesting to see Jerry Jones splash $400 million in free agency and still go 8-8.
Right. Yeah, that would be good. That would be maybe. How about this? We do the exemption, 3 players exemption, but only for the Cowboys to see how they screw it up.
8-8 again. Not even on snap.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't love it, but I don't know. Maybe people disagree.
We'll have to workshop this one.
Yeah. I think that we'll go back a little bit to mine. The reason why I wanted to do it just rookies too is because I wanted to sort of say that that way, you don't have this problem because I mean, if you get drafted by the Giants, you'll probably make more money than if you get drafted by the Titans, or I mean, I'm not even sure exactly who are the smaller market teams, but at the end of the day, there's still not that competitive advantage. You just hope that you go to a bigger market team. Which I think could help. Maybe you could even, to talk about your point, maybe you could say you still count against the salary cap in terms of what you were already. We do rookie contracts the way they're already, but then if you want to pay them more money, then maybe you still can do that and it doesn't count against the cap that way.
Interesting. Yeah, that'd be something that could probably work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a good idea. Or just, I mean, I think your idea about running backs too, because running backs, they're in a different world than everyone else. It just, maybe just tier some of these things, like certain play, like a quarterback can play for 20 years, a running back can play for 6. Why do they play for the same amount of years on a rookie deal? Some stuff like that. So that's all of our ideas. Did you want to touch on the Jamal Adams situation real quick before we go?
Yeah, we could talk about it. So basically, he requested a trade from the Jets because the extension talks weren't really working out for them. And he listed, was it 8 teams that he requested a trade to?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I have the odds here via Bet Online that I saw from some Cowboy blog article. That is, right now they have the Ravens at 5-2 odds, the Buccaneers at 3-1 odds, the Cowboys at 4-1, the Eagles at 5-1, the Seahawks at 5-1, the Texans at 7-1, the Chiefs at 8-1, and the 49ers at 10-1. Which team do you think Jamal Adams would probably go to the most? Or do you see Jamal Adams before the season starts?
I think realistically, I would trade him. I think the Jets might not. They might even wait to trade him, sort of do the Jonathan Drouin thing, wait a little bit to trade him just to make sure that they can, get a bigger return later. They could do something like that. If I'm thinking from a Bucs perspective, I want them to trade for Jamal Adams. I think that makes sense. Listen, in every other sport, teams trade away draft picks or trade away like baseball, for example. You trade away prospects that are going to be good in the future to get somebody who's good right now so you can try to win a World Series. It's a well-established thing in the sport. In football, no one wants to do it. If I'm Baltimore, I'll give you a first-round pick for Jamal Adams. Absolutely. With Baltimore, they're going to be picking late. I'll give you 2 first-round picks for him, and I'll pay him. I'm not sure if they have the cap, but assuming they do have the cap, let's try to win a Super Bowl this year. At the end of the day, flags fly forever. I think too many teams try to build dynasties. I would try to build a team that's just going to win 1 Super Bowl. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'd feel better about that than if I just sort of coasted and ended up having a couple of solid seasons and then falling back to mediocrity. But yeah, I think he probably won't get traded right away. I don't know. Sure. I'll say he gets traded to Baltimore.
Interesting. So I was looking at the Buccaneers cap situation. They would essentially need to dump $5 million or rework $5 million in salary just to take him this year. But I was thinking, so you look at the Jalen Ramsey trade from last year. Now, cornerback is obviously more important of a position than safety, but Ramsey went for 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick. So say the Buccaneers called and said, we'll give you our first-round pick next year, Antoine Winfield Jr., and a 4th or 5th round pick. Who says no to that one?
I think I would. I'm not sure if I want to get rid of Antoine Winfield. I mean, if I think that if they were to do that, I think there would have to be some sort of expectation that like Jamal Adams' contract would be backloaded, so that way they can make the money work easier. Because I don't know. I mean, I think part of the appeal of this is that now they can have sort of a complete defense, and really a one more safety is kind of the biggest hole in that roster. And I think that losing Winfield, who I think is going to be very good, I think that could kind of be the. I don't know if I love that.
That's
it's probably
fair.
a fair
I don't know.
deal.
Yeah, because the team I thought of was, especially looking at the odds list, was the Seahawks. He had, I forget his name. Oh my gosh, I just was looking at it. Bradley McDougall. I thought his coverage stats were okay, but I thought overall, I mean, Jamal Adams is a clear upgrade, and you put him in Quadre Diggs back there. That's the best safety combination in football. I think that'd be a really interesting one if you put those two together. Because I think the thing that's so interesting with Adams is he can almost play anywhere. I think he's one of the rare safeties who could fill in as a free safety, strong safety, and be an all-pro level at either position. So I think you can almost, he's almost to a point where he could play in any system and be really successful. I don't think, he could almost be put into that strong safety position next to Diggs, I think, and make that Seahawks defense just as elite as it was, not as good as it was in 2013 or whatever, but that's still going to be a top of the level defense, especially that secondary with two safeties in Shaquille Griffin. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't hate that idea. One thing, Adams is kind of he's that guy. I think he's the best safety in the league. I made a video about it, and I said that I think he's really good. I think that he's probably better strong safety. I mean, he's essentially you take those guys who are like traditional quote unquote box safeties like a Landon Collins, and he plays strong as well as them, but it can also be an elite free safety, which is kind of what I think is so incredible about him. Again, like I said, the way I would run a team is do something to go out and try to get him. For the Seahawks, I mean, you're a team that has a chance to win a Super Bowl. They were a yard away from winning their division last year, and they were, a yard away and a win away from getting a bye week. Who knows what happens if they did that? So I definitely don't. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and plus the benefit to the Seahawks is they have $13 million in cap space, and they have Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson to long-term contracts. So it's not like they're sacrificing too much for bringing in a guy like Adams. I think he makes a lot of sense there. I feel like it's that or one of those two NFC East teams he listed. Those are two teams that have been, more than welcome to splashing the cash for people. And I could just see, Jerry Jones could offer 2 first-round picks, and I could see that happening. If I'm the Jets, I would even call Bill O'Brien right away and see what exactly you can get from Bill O'Brien, because it's clearly a lot more than anybody else would offer.
Bill O'Brien would be terrible. Bill O'Brien would be terrible. He'd be like, "Oh, okay, superstar player. So a second-round pick. Does that seem that seems right? Yeah, that seems like a good one." Also, I would hate this trade from the Cowboys' perspective. I think that would be. I think the Cowboys would be super stupid to go out and trade 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams because I don't think they're in the position. Like I talked about how I would love it for Tampa Bay or Baltimore because they're teams that are trying to win a Super Bowl this year. They need to rebuild to some degree. They need to get more depth. They don't need one more star. They have stars. Like their problem is they need consistency on their defense. I think it would be so Dallas to do it, and I think they'll go 7-9 if they do.
Yeah, I mean they continue to pay for that. That's all they care about. I could see it happening. I think the Eagles actually does make a lot of sense. I think that'd be a good fit because their secondary, could use all the help they can get, even with adding Darius Slay. But yeah, I guess I'll say right now, if you bet the Ravens, I'd bet the Seahawks right now. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a good fit for him. And like I said, I think he's a clear upgrade over McDougall at that safety position. I think that's the best fit for him. In terms of he wants to play football and be on a good team.
Yeah, and I do like McDougall. He was former Buccaneer. Has played a lot better with Seattle than he played with Tampa Bay. And I think that it's interesting. I'm trying to think about the scheme now with Seattle. They run like that, sort of a traditional cover 3 zone type defense. I'm assuming this means that basically Adams will be getting a lot less free safety time, which could be sort of maybe a negative to some degree, but at the same time, it also his strong safety is where he's more well suited. So maybe putting him there could help him. So I don't hate the Seattle thing. I think, yeah, if you're one of those top teams that feels like you can compete for a Super Bowl, I think go out and trade for him. That's kind of always been my mindset.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, we'll see how this one plays out. I don't see him getting traded before the season, though. I think this is like a week 4 trade. Like, I think if the Jets start like 1-3, he's probably gone. Because what's the point of paying $15 million for a safety per year if you're still a 1-3 football team?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, the Jets. I mean, the Jets are terrible. I mean, they're just the worst. I don't know. Like, you have these superstars, and you just can't seem to get any offensive talent other than maybe Sam Darnold. And I don't know. I've heard some people saying it's like, well, why would he want to leave? If they pay him, like, who cares? But I think a lot of it is, I think he just wants to be on a competitive team. Like, it has to suck to be a super competitive guy like he is, and to just be on a team that he just feels like is going nowhere. I think it's actually less about the money and more about just wanting to leave the Jets. And he even said, like, listen, if you trade me, I'm okay with not getting paid right away. Like, he even said that. I think it's less about him wanting a contract and more about him just wanting to leave.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, his rookie year, he was the one because that was like a huge concussion time. The topic was heavy, and he was the one that said that I would die playing on this field. It seems like he's just a super competitive guy, and I think that does matter to him being on one of the best teams. Obviously it's got to be the best situation for the Jets too, because they want to make sure they're in the best position going forward. So yeah, I think any one of those competitive teams. I don't really see how the Chiefs make it work. I feel like that's kind of a long shot, but yeah, I do think that one of those teams, the Ravens, Seahawks, or those NFC East teams, make a lot of sense for him.
What about like a Chris Jones for Jamal Adams type thing?
That'd be so. That would never happen. That's like an NBA kind of trade that never happened in the NFL.
I know,
but so essentially they would have to trade Chris Jones and then trade for Jamal Adams, essentially. Because they're not going to come up with an extension for Chris Jones. They would have to be like, okay, that ship sailed. We'll trade him for and get a replacement level tackle, and then bring in Adams at safety. That'd be so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be fun though. All right, so yep, that's our thoughts on Jamal Adams. Anything else you want to talk about, or ready to wrap this one up?
I think that's pretty good for me. We'll see what happens with some of these contracts going forward. Obviously, the Prescott's. They were saying he's signing his franchise tag. He has essentially 3 weeks now to sign an extension. So we'll see what happens with that as everyone's, trying to play salary cap games now.
Yeah. Fun stuff. I think this is a very fun episode. A silly one, but a fun one nonetheless. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And of course, as all, thanks for listening.
See you.